Hi, my name is Lindsay Murphy, and today we're going to be covering social media marketing. Now, I know most of you have had social media your entire lives, but today we're going to kind of view it from the standpoint of a brand or a business and how social media is used to market that brand or business online. So let's get after it. We're going to cover everything from what are the types of platforms that these businesses are using, the presence on those platforms, the tone and consistency of posts and of the brand itself on those platforms, images that accompany posts or stand alone, what they look like, how to format them, community building through these platforms, clicks to purchase, advertising for these brands, and then analytics and what those look like for each of the different platforms. All right, so we are looking at the different types of platforms. So here are the big three, obviously Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but YouTube is something you might not think about exactly when you first think of social media platforms, but it is one of the largest platforms that people post on a daily basis and actually receive information on a daily basis. And so YouTube is also owned by Google. And so a lot of those videos will garner higher search results because they are owned by Google. Same thing with Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is owned by Facebook, something to remember. It's something that they're pushing super heavily for businesses to use both platforms. And when you are advertising, that goes across both platforms. So, all right. So Facebook has really dug its feet in across the globe. They have 2.5 billion monthly users. This is just a huge platform across the globe for people to connect with each other, form communities, use Messenger as a way for people to talk to each other if maybe they don't have text messages. And really, only 10% of Facebook's users live in the US or Canada. So 90% of Facebook's users are abroad. It's an incredible thing to think about. So Twitter has 145 million monetizable daily active users. So Twitter is a little bit more difficult with the intense bot situation to understand how many people, businesses, et cetera, are really using the platform. And so when they say monetizable daily active users, this means people who are known as humans, usually, and are using the platform daily. So that is still a huge amount of people. So unlike Facebook, Twitter has a majority of people who actually live in the United States. But of those people who are tweeting in the United States, 80% of those tweets are coming from 10% of Twitter users. So people who are active on Twitter, that small squeaky wheel gets a lot of the grease, and they are seeing a lot. So some people are just really, really into it. And then Instagram has 116 million US users. Facebook wants to continue to build off of that, obviously, and 125.5 million monthly users across the globe. So as you can see here, a majority is the US share, but it is unfathomable to think that Facebook wouldn't try to push Instagram across the globe. Now, there are so many other social media platforms that are also taking up real estate on people's mobile phones, including Snapchat, TikTok, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Pinterest, and Reddit. These are all platforms where brands can think about asserting their voice, being seen, and creating a connection with their buyers. All right, so Facebook. We can share these slides with you so you can see them a little bit closer, but as many of you probably know, Facebook has an older generation that is growing intensely. So users 65 years and older are the fastest growing group on Facebook. In 2015, 71% of teens were active on Facebook. In just 5 years, that has just totally changed. Now that we have Snapchat and TikTok, teens have really fled Facebook, and most of the new users are going to be those 65 years and older, or that 13 to 17-year-old range. So just keeping that data in mind for a brand is really important, because Facebook pages can be used as a pseudo web page, because they can be built, business pages can be built to house things like business hours. You can even schedule appointments on a Facebook business page. It can be really used as a hub for people, but if you're going to be doing advertising on Facebook, you need to know that there's only a group of people that are younger than 17 and older than 60-ish that you're going to reach most reliably. A couple other graphs that, again, you guys can see in the slides later, but just breaking down the different types of platforms. This is in 2019. So some of this data is about a year behind, and 2020 was an incredible year for social media. So I have no doubt that some of these demographics will change with people being at home, all, throughout quarantine. Usage of all of these social media platforms skyrocketed. But in 2019, you can see that YouTube, like I was saying, is the largest used between the two demographics of men and women. Ages 18 to 29 is where you're seeing the most people watching YouTube videos on an extreme daily basis, and some of those other breakdowns as far as education, where they live, etc. Reddit being the least amount, but remember that people who put things on Reddit, that is crawlable information by search engines like Google. And so that's information that's still getting seen, maybe not necessarily on Reddit, but in a search query, it can also be seen. So like we thought, Facebook and Instagram also top those usage of US adults, closely followed behind by Pinterest. So Pinterest is really quite all about the images, that brand building, feeling connected in a community to the people around you, people who share the same interests as you. And it's a really interesting place for businesses who have that type of need, whether that be, food bloggers or restaurants or all kinds of different folks, to build a community there. Again, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Twitter, those become a little bit more niche. But when you partner together all of those platforms for a brand, you can see how you can come up to a pretty robust section of the US market. Again, this is the middle graph is a chart showing in 2019 where Twitter users are. And like we just spoke about, you can see that most of them are in the United States, closely followed by Japan, and then marking on down the list. So 30 million, or about 20% of Twitter's daily users, are American. Most popular social networks as of October 2020. So this is a little bit newer information, which is great. Facebook still ranks up there. This is a world view. Facebook still ranks up there, but again, YouTube comes in a close second. WhatsApp is also considered a social media platform, and that messaging between people, the creation of groups, has really blown up in some areas. One I can think of is the fitness and health arena. So creating groups for people to come together, talk more, and using that as a text messaging service is also a different type of social media. Okay, so the tone, thinking about as a business, as a brand, your tone is very important, and you want to keep it consistent. Instead of just as your individual person, your likes, your feels, you're now speaking for an entire brand, an entire company, and the people that are employed within that company. So if your brand was a person, what kind of personality would it have? Would it be energetic? Would it be sarcastic? Would it be really serious and scientific? And identifying that is really one of the most important things before you start a social media marketing plan as a brand. So what would that relationship, that brand's relationship be as a person with a customer? So is it a coach? Is it a friend? Is it a teacher? Is it a dad? Are you telling dad jokes on your platforms? Really understanding what that relationship is so that you can structure your ideas and your messaging around that relationship. Then describing in adjectives what your company's personality is not. So if you are scientific, you're not going to be sarcastic, right? Using those very super clear adjectives to understand what you do and don't want to be putting on your social media platforms. This is important to list out in your brand guide as well, so that when you're working across the team, it's easier to explain what you need, what type of messages you need to be creating as a company. Now, do a little bit more research. Are there any companies that have a similar personality to yours? And why are they similar? What are they doing? How are they speaking or teaching or informing about their business to their customers? There are a lot of ideas out there, but there's not too many new ideas. And so reusing a really great social media idea for your own with a little bit of a tweak with your personality, with your brand relationship can be very successful. And then how do you want customers to think about your company? Do you want them to think of it as a friend? Do you want them to think of it as a trusted resource for important information? Do you want to think of it as the best meme generator that they've seen on the internet? So really thinking about, what do your customers want from you? What is the personality that you want to have with them? And what is that relationship? And carrying that tone all the way across all of your messaging. It really needs to be something that you think about before you start putting any of your messaging out in the world. So for example, if this was a tweet, you were making tweets, your reader is potential customers, marketing professionals, the reader's feelings are eager and engaged to find interesting content and information. So your tone should be helpful, informative, clear, and approachable. So you're writing like this: did you know the 8-hour workday was invented to help people work less? We have the story here. So you always kind of want to obviously create that call to action, but you're seeing in that tweet, did you know? So these people are eager and engaged and interested in finding out information. So you're already clicking off one of their important needs. The 8-hour workday, these are professionals. They want to hear more about working less. So they're going to definitely click on that link below. And then use lots of questions. So engage your readers to think more and want more information from your tweet. You don't want to necessarily give them all the information that they need right there. You're usually driving that to more content, to a blog, to a website, to something that they want to buy. You're trying to engage them in the next step. So using questions can really help with that, and invite your readers to discover what you have already done, what explains your brand more, etc. Another thing that social media loves, lists. So top 3, top 10, number 1, things like that. And then really leave folks hanging if you're trying to drive them to the next space. So what is today's top soda flavor? We can tell you in this short list, and then directing to a blog. So use lots of questions, invite your readers to discover more information about your brand. So consistency, it is indeed a beast. So consistency. Feed the beast. You have to be putting out tons and tons of content to stay relevant in SEO. So putting up one social media post a week is not going to do it. Photos, consistent information, having the same hours, having the same location across your Google My Business page, your Facebook page, your website, all those things will help keep you higher in search rankings and will also help keep your brand be trusted more by search engines. So, like I'm saying, social media can help improve your SEO ranking. So even if social media is not a ranking factor in SEO, which it is not most times, unless that is the only thing that your brand is doing, things like time on a page and time on a site really truly are. That's what helps build your presence in search engines. And so for that reason, several respondents to this survey, sorry, I pulled this from a survey, say that social media benefits SEO by helping you improve the metrics that do improve rankings. So it drives more traffic to your pages. Like we were just saying, click here to learn more, find out the top 10, to that blog, to your website, promotional, whatever you have going on. It drives traffic to your pages, which are search engine optimized. So they're web pages that rank in SEO. They have your keywords on them. They have your website's name tied to it, obviously. And so that's where you can get that time. So improving your social media visibility, getting more followers will inevitably drive more people to your website and then up your SEO. So talking about images, it is almost, it's almost impossible to create good social media without images today. So it is just a huge part of how people partake on the internet. It's a very goldfish-like mentality. If you don't have good imagery, if you're not using beautiful photos, if you're not using good memes, you're not going to be seen. And so there are a couple things that you can do to have really beautiful social imagery. Having imagery that is easy to understand. So visuals are processed at 60,000 times faster than text is. So you can see that, you can understand, make your own impressions about that visual before you even read a paragraph or a sentence or whatever. Clicks. So posts with images are clicked on 90% more than posts without images. It's just, you have to have images with posts. And then not staying static. So it's important to have beautiful images, but mixing it up with memes, GIFs, boomerangs, videos it's a really important thing for a business or a brand, just to give different content and also have something that breaks up your feed as if people are scrolling through it. And then something just super important about any image that you use: correct sizing. I've got a sheet here in a slide in a minute talking about how each platform, of course, has different sizing for optimum viewing. Thinking about this for mobile is very important. More than half of people who are using social media are doing it on their mobile phones. You need to have it sized correctly so that it can play on that mobile phone and download quickly. So correct sizing, high quality, you're wanting to use the highest quality photo in the lowest amount of space. And so sizing it correctly, and then keeping text to a minimum, especially on your photos. Photos that are heavy with text first of all, you can't crawl them with an internet search browser, and it really detracts from the whole idea of your image anyway. As I was saying, again, there are different sizes for each platform. It's really important to size your images correctly. It makes your brand look professional. It makes your business easily understandable, and it's just super important. So as a business, building a community around the things that your business is passionate about, or your business's goal as a whole. So things like this. One of my favorite examples to use with community building is Patagonia, and how they work, or REI, both of them work with the National Park Foundation to encourage people to get outside, to visit national parks in a responsible way. And they've created platforms where they're people who buy their clothing or buy their camping gear or buy their skiing gear, whatever, can get online, show what they have been doing, every once in a while receive coupon codes because they're in this group, etc. So they believe in the outdoors. They're creating a community around that through their products, but also extending their vision a little further than that. So so as a business, you need to think about what is that social media audience using. Now, that is just a Facebook group because Facebook groups have become increasingly popular. There are also hashtags on Instagram. But where is your audience? And focusing there. Thinking about what platform aligns with the content that I share, what platform is the most appropriate for my industry, and where do I want to be spending the most time. So you can really truly spread across every single social media platform if you want to, but spreading yourself too thin is not going to help anybody. And so if you're really truly trying to build a community in somewhere, it might really benefit you to spend a lot more time on one platform than another. Then once you've created this community, learning to serve it as best as your brand possibly can. So pass along that helpful information, publish useful content, provide extremely superb customer service. Facebook and mostly I think just Facebook talks about how much time it takes for your business to answer messaging back, and they will rate your business on that, and customers can see that. So providing superb customer service. Ratings are out there everywhere, not just on Google, but on Yelp, on Angie's List, etc. Like having superb customer service on the internet is very important. Maintaining that friendly human presence, even though they might not be able to actually talk to humans in your brand all the time, you need to really have that human presence there. And then admitting when you screw up and make it right immediately. That's that customer service. Rewarding and honoring your best fans, highlighting them, giving them discounts maybe, and then delighting your fans in surprising ways. So giving them behind the scenes stuff, giving them a little bit of a touch base with the actual humans in the company, and guiding them to the products and services they really actually need. Okay, so advertising. Clicks from social media. There are several different places that can happen that I'm going to highlight here, but we are talking about people who pay for advertising right here, brands that are paying for advertising on these platforms. So let's start with the big one. The biggest advertising platform on the internet is Google. 73% of paid search begins and belongs to Google. Straight up. So if you are really trying to get higher in the search engine, if you're trying to get found in your local area, you're going to need to do it through Google. 65% of small to mid-sized businesses have a pay-per-click campaign, whether that be $10 a month to, $200,000 a month, depending on what they're really searching for. And the amount of pay-per-click really depends on the area that they're at, the niche that they're trying to work for, all kinds of things. 46% of clicks go to the top 3 paid ads in the search results. That top 3 search list, when you pull up Google, getting to that is really the epitome of what you can try to do with your pay-per-click campaign. And then 35% of users purchase a product within 5 days of searching for it on Google. So that awareness piece is really getting found on Google. That decision piece is that click. Snapchat. So 64% of Snapchat ads are actually viewed with their sound on, which is a huge number. Facebook. So 94% of Facebook's ad revenue is from mobile. No surprise here, right? You are going through your newsfeed and you come along something, you click on an ad, you get down a rabbit hole, you maybe buy something. So definitely from mobile. They're also using the cookies that come from you clicking on ads or clicking on business pages to follow you around with those ads. So the average cost per click for a Facebook ad is $1.72 in 2020. So not cheap. And then Instagram, again, owned by Facebook. So because of the increased engagement with stories, so advertisement on stories, advertisers are spending way more money on Instagram because it has that human feel. It's easier when people are clicking through stories to just insert that ad there. It's a lot harder for people to skip over it. So compared to Facebook, ad spending on Instagram is actually nearly 25% higher. It's just a much more friendly platform for those visuals and for people to kind of have tailored advertisements shown right to them, clicking down that rabbit hole. So a couple different graphs here. One of them is Instagram's estimated share of Facebook's ad revenue and growth. Like I was just saying, Instagram is really going to be the ad revenue generator for Facebook in the future. It's just how things are going, and they're putting a ton of money into using your Facebook algorithm, matching you up with the right advertisers, and putting that in your Instagram feed, so that it's easy for them to target you with ads that are incredibly relevant to you. And so down here in the bottom right, you can also see this is from 2019, but at that time, posts were the majority of advertising on Instagram versus stories. I would be really interested to see what that is in 2020. And finally, social analytics. As a brand, as a business, it is just so important to keep an idea of what is going on with your social media analytics across every platform. I like to do this monthly for all of my clients, but you can do it in as little as 2 weeks to really understand what messaging is working, what is not, the time of day you really want to be seeing, etc. So analytics across not only your awareness, who's seeing you, obviously your sales, and then the community that you are trying to create. The different types of analytics that you can really look at are the demographics. So normal stuff: gender, location, education, interest, purchase power, the amount of money they make a year. Timing: when is the best time to cut through the noise for your business, and when are your demographics online the most? Is that at lunch? Is it after work? Is it 9 p.m. when they're sitting on the couch? You really need to think about that and time your posts for then. Benchmarks and posts, so making monthly, quarterly, yearly marks for success for businesses and brands is incredibly important. Just like any other part of the business, analytics for your social media should be benchmarked. And then what is actually resonating with your audience? What types of posts are resonating? What types of images, etc. These are all things that analytics can tell you. And finally, there's a big difference between social media monitoring and social listening. So there's a ton of programs out there that can do both, but it's important to understand the difference between the two. So social media monitoring is looking back. This is the analytic side of things. This is gathering information, focusing on those important details, measuring the success. Whereas social listening is looking forward, analyzing information to look at the big picture, people who are mentioning you, keywords that are happening a lot, and really using that as a strategy guide to move forward and be in the right conversations. I really appreciate you joining me today. Thank you.